everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is Friday, and that is the day that I'm going to be answering all those large family questions that we get. So I had some really good questions. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about postpartum, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, and baby blues. So I was asked if I have ever dealt with any of these, and the answer is yes. I am actually overwhelmed all the time. Being a mom is hard. It's hard work. I think it's the most rewarding job on the planet, and I also think it's one of the hardest. I should say being a parent, because I think that dads also get overwhelmed, and it's a hard job being a dad too. So, anyway, I was never clinically diagnosed with having postpartum depression, so I don't want to make light of the situation. I can only speak from my experience and what I went through, and I don't know if it would have been a diagnosable postpartum depression what I went through. So it's probably more anxiety, and it was circumstantial, so I don't know if that played into, or if that makes it postpartum depression is what I'm getting at. Does that make sense? Anyway, so after our fourth baby, our first son, we really were in a rough patch in our lives. Long story short, we lived in Georgia. I wanted to move back home to Florida, and my husband did not want to, and we very much were in disagreement about the situation, and I cried all the time. And it was really bad, and that it was so bad that my husband sat down and was like, I really think that you need to talk to someone, because I think you are depressed. So we actually ultimately decided to move back to Florida, and his phrase ever since, he started saying it back then, and that was, well, Jackson's 9, so it was 9 years ago. Wow, that's crazy to me. Anyways, my husband started saying happy wife, happy life, and he moved me back to Florida, and I kind of got out of that slump that I was in. So that's why I think it was obviously circumstantial. But I don't want to make light of postpartum depression, because I do feel like it's a real struggle that a lot of women go through, and it's not talked about enough. So I did have baby blues after Taylor and Addison. I just cried. Nothing would really set me off or trigger me or anything. I just would cry some. But I don't think I really was kind of shocked by those feelings. Here I was over the moon, happy. I had just had a baby, and it kind of came upon me rather fast, and I wasn't expecting it. But my mom was in town. At the time, I lived in Georgia. My mom was in town, and she was there, and she's like, just these are all normal feelings. She's like, if you feel like crying, cry. She's like, it's completely normal. So that made me obviously feel better. So those were after our first two babies. I don't remember feeling that way with Payton. Jackson, I just told you about. And then Miley, I really don't think I struggled at all. After Logan, I didn't really struggle. After Reagan, I struggled a good bit. Again, I think it was circumstantial. There was just a lot of other stuff going on, and I just was very anxious. I had a lot of anxiety. And then again, after Harper, the same thing. But after Harper, as some of you may well know, she was just a few weeks old, and something was not right. Long story short, there with her, we realized that she was having seizures. I can pop her story here. It's kind of a lengthy video, but if y'all are interested in that at all. So after dealing with all that, I had a lot of anxiety, naturally. And even my husband said, and so see, guys kind of compartmentalize, and to where women, I think we're obviously are more emotionally driven. But my husband said to me, he was like, maybe we should not have any more children, because this might be your limit. That's how anxious I was. The smallest thing would set me off. And obviously we had another baby after that, so it didn't stop us. But anyways, okay, so some of the stuff that has helped me whenever I'm kind of preparing for that postpartum period is to, one, remind myself that it is okay to feel the way that I feel, as far as just, wanting to cry or feeling overwhelmed, that I need to give my body some time to recover. And I try to avoid or remove any of the triggers that trigger me. Because now, obviously, I've been through this many times. I kind of know what will help me and what will hurt me. And I try to avoid what will hurt me and build up the stuff that will help me. One of the many things that helps me through this is I have an amazing community of friends that I talk to and I vent to, and that we share life together. That really helps me. My husband, he's very supportive as well, and that helps me. But I think removing those triggers is the most important thing as far as our mental health. Okay, so moving on to feeling overwhelmed. I feel like postpartum and baby blues, is kind of separate, and being overwhelmed. So talking about being overwhelmed. So like I said, I'm overwhelmed all the time. Being a mom is hard work, like I mentioned before. It's hard. It's the most rewarding job, but it's one of the hardest jobs as well. And I think we need to give ourselves some grace as far as we're not perfect. We are going to have good days. We are going to have bad days as far as ourselves, not our children. And it's okay. Like if we mess up and if we make a mistake, if we yell or whatever, we also need to be the first ones to apologize, because we are modeling that behavior for our children as far as how to deal with all those big feelings that we have. So I do get overwhelmed a lot. I get overwhelmed in homeschool, especially because that's a lot of work. I get overwhelmed when the house is in disarray, or I get overwhelmed when my to-do list is just a mile long, and I just don't know how I'm going to get everything done. So some of the things that help me is, one, I can also delegate now because I do have older children, so I get them to help in all of the areas, whether it's homeschooling or in the house stuff or with the little ones. They are great helpers, and I'm very thankful for that, and I constantly tell them that. And in turn, it's also teaching them some really good life skills. So with motherhood, there are good days and there are bad days, and how we deal with them is important. I try, whenever I'm having a day where I'm just kind of feeling super overwhelmed, I try to really press into the Lord and spend a good bit of time in prayer. Read, some sort of devotional that will hopefully help me. Read the Word, put on worship music, spend some time in that, and that will usually help clear my head. And if it doesn't, I keep doing it until it does, because I can tend to be pretty stubborn. Sometimes it takes me a little bit longer to get what God's trying to show me. So those are the things that help me. Is I always say I gotta pull up my bootstraps and move on. So I usually have like an overwhelming breaking point where I'm just like, how am I gonna do all this? And then it's like, okay, I got this. And then I pull up my bootstraps and then I get her done. I tend to work pretty well under pressure or a short timeline. It just kind of motivates me to get things done faster. So one thing that I think it's important to remember as moms is to take care of ourselves too. We spend our day taking care of everybody else and not, always taking care of ourselves. We can put ourselves on the back burner, but we matter too. Our needs, our wants, our desires matter. And it's important that we take time for those as well. And whatever works for you to kind of, mentally decompress, whatever life has thrown at our way. One thing that I have done as of maybe the past few months is I will go in my husband's truck and just drive and sit in the parking lot and listen to quiet, listen to some worship music. Just the idea of just being away. I'm not spending any money, but I'm getting some of that mental energy out that I need to. So another thing is that I try to avoid getting to the place of being overwhelmed. I say that, but it's not like I don't get there. What I mean is I try to stay on top of things. So the house being disarray tends to overwhelm me. So I want to stay on top of it. I don't want to let the laundry to get so massively out of control that it overwhelms me to do it. You know what I mean? The dishes or whatever the case may be. So I try to avoid getting to that place. and I try to keep things maintained to where I don't end up in that breaking point. Again, it's not perfect by any means. I still get there. It still happens often. But that's one thing that I try to do to help my sanity. So, anyways, I hope that my thoughts blessed you. I am by no means, a perfectionist or anything like that whenever it comes to these topics. These are just things that I can only speak of from my experience. So, if this video blessed you, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up and come along and subscribe to our channel and join us along our journey. Next Friday, I'm not exactly sure what topic I'm going to do yet. I have some awesome questions that I'm going to kind of, go through, and so it'll just be a surprise next week. But I hope that y'all have a blessed day. Thanks.